The reception hall smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. I could taste both on my tongue as I pressed myself deeper into the corner behind the ornamental screen, watching shadows flicker across marble floors that probably cost more than my entire existence. My father's voice boomed across the space, each word dripping with the kind of confidence only rich men fake well. "Gentlemen, I present my sons." I didn't need to look at Minho to know he was perfect. My older brother had that effect on rooms. Walked in and suddenly everyone forgot how to breathe properly. Even now I could hear the subtle shift in the air, the way conversations died mid-sentence when he entered. Minho in his tailored navy suit, his black hairstyle just messy enough to look effortless, his smile calculated to devastate. And then there was me. I'd worn gray. Again. Because that's what you do when you've spent 23 years being the disappointment. You learn to blend into expensive wallpaper and hope nobody notices you're still breathing. My ash blonde hair was tied back in a small ponytail, and I'd deliberately chosen this corner near the server's entrance where the shadows pulled deepest. Old survival instinct. When you've been compared to perfection your whole life and found lacking every single time, you learn exactly where to stand so the comparison doesn't shatter you completely. The two alphas hadn't spoken yet. I couldn't see them clearly from my hiding spot, just tall silhouettes by the floor-ceiling windows, overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. But I could feel them. Everyone could. It was like standing too close to an electrical transformer. That buzz under your skin that whispered danger in a language older than words. My telepathy stirred. That unwanted gift I'd been born with, picking up surface thoughts from the crowd like radio static. Anxiety from the business associates, hunger from my father, calculation from Minho, and from the alphas, nothing. Complete silence. That should have been my first warning. "Take Minho," my father continued, and I felt that familiar cold stone settle in my chest. Not surprise, never surprise anymore. Just that old ache I'd learned to carry like pocket change. He's renowned throughout Seoul's elite packs for his beauty and grace. Harvard educated, speaks 4 languages. He would make an ideal. No. The single word cut through my father's sales pitch like a blade through silk. The voice was deeper than I'd expected. Rougher, like someone who didn't waste breath on pleasantries. Silence crashed over the hall like a wave. I watched my father's face cycle through confusion, then embarrassment, then that desperate grasping panic I recognized from every business deal that had ever gone wrong. "Alpha Kang, I assure you, Minho is, we can see what he is." A second voice now, smoother than the first but somehow more dangerous. Like poison honey. There was movement by the windows. Then they were walking, and I pressed myself harder against the wall, barely breathing. "Beautiful," the smooth voice continued. Each word dropped into the silence like stones into still water. Carefully presented, taught to smile and stand and speak exactly as expected. I saw Minho's perfect posture falter, just slightly. My father's mouth opened and closed. I recognized that look, the same one he'd worn when the Kang pack had first sent their demands. The Eastern Territory needed to strengthen pack alliances. The Kang Alphas needed an Omega mate. My father needed protection for his business empire and his weaker pack status. Simple mathematics. A son for survival. "There's another." My heart stopped. No. No, they couldn't mean the one trying to disappear into the architecture near the service entrance. Every eye in the hall turned toward me. I felt their weight like physical things, pressing against my skin. My telepathy exploded with sudden noise. Shock, curiosity, confusion, disdain, and I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The shadows I'd wrapped around myself like armor suddenly felt transparent. Useless. Fuck. "Jiha." My father's voice had gone thin. "That's Jiha. He's not, he's exactly what we're looking for." The alphas stepped fully into the light. The first one, Alpha Kang Do-yun, I assumed, was all sharp edges and control power. Dark hair, undercut precise, jaw that could cut glass. Maybe 28, 29. Eyes so dark they looked black in the chandelier light. fixed on me with an intensity that made my pulse skip. The second, Kang had to be, was somehow worse. Slightly taller, broader through the shoulders with that same dark intensity but wrapped in something that looked almost like amusement. Silver gleamed at his ear. His smile was slow, predatory, and directed entirely at me. "Come here," Doyen said. Not a request. My legs moved before my brain could catch up, carrying me out of my safe shadows into the center of the hall. I was suddenly aware of everything: the whisper of my cheap slacks against the floor, the fact that my ponytail had come slightly loose, the way my hands wanted to shake and everyone could see it, especially them. I stopped 3 paces away, close enough to smell winter pine and something wilder that made my omega instincts wake up and pay very uncomfortable attention. "Look at me," Doyen commanded. I'd been staring at the floor. Of course I had. I lifted my eyes to his and the world narrowed to just that. Darkness so complete I could drown in it. My telepathy reached out instinctively, trying to read him, understand him, survive him, and hit a wall of absolute nothing. My telepathy reached out instinctively, trying to read him, understand him, survive him, and hit a wall of absolute nothing, which was impossible. I'd been reading minds since I was 7. Every human, every wolf, every creature with thoughts leaks something. Static, emotions, surface noise. But these two, complete radio silence. Like my gift just stopped existing in their presence. Great. Fantastic. This is fine. "What's your name?" Dohyun asked, though I was pretty sure he already knew. "Jiha." My voice came out steadier than expected. Small victory. "An, Jiha. Why were you hiding, Jiha?" The question caught me so off guard I almost laughed. The audacity of it. The directness. I could have lied, should have lied, but something in those bottomless eyes told me he'd know. And honestly, I was so tired of pretending. Because no one was looking for me anyway. I heard my father's sharp inhale, Minho's quiet gasp of horror. "You didn't say things like that in front of alphas and business partners. You didn't admit your own irrelevance like it was just weather." But Doyen's expression didn't change. If anything, something flickered across his face that looked almost like recognition. "And if we look for you now?" Taewon spoke for the first time since they'd started walking, his voice sliding through the air like smoke. I turned to face him fully. Big mistake. He was worse up close, all sharp cheekbones and that silver earring catching light and eyes that watched me like I was the most interesting thing he'd seen in years. "Then I guess I've been found." I lifted my chin slightly. "Though I'm not sure what you're expecting to find. My brother's the prize here. I'm just the backup plan nobody wanted to use." "Stop talking, Jiha. Stop making it worse." But Taewon smiled. Really smiled. And I watched that expression ripple through the assembled crowd like a shockwave. He moved closer. I forced myself to hold still, even though every instinct screamed to step back. When he was near enough that I could see the individual threads of silver in his black hair. "Wait, he's only 28. Why does he have silver already?" He spoke again. "You're afraid." "Yes." "Good." His smile sharpened. "Fear means you're paying attention." They circled me, both of them, like wolves assessing prey. I felt the weight of their attention on my shoulders, my cheap clothes, my pale hair that had never learned to shine like Minho's, my hands that wanted to fidget but I wouldn't let them. This is a dominance display, I realized. They're testing me, so I did something probably stupid. I reached out with my telepathy again, but differently this time. Not trying to read their thoughts, that wall was solid, but feeling for the shape of that wall, the texture of their silence. And I found warmth. No, heat, like standing too close to a furnace, and underneath it, something vast and old and definitely not entirely human. "Your father offered us beauty," Dohyun said, completing his circle to stand in front of me again. "Power wrapped in a perfect package. Do you know what I see when I look at your brother?" I shook my head. A mirror, polished and practiced and completely empty. Ouch, poor Minho. I should probably feel bad about that. I didn't. "But you..." Taewon was suddenly at my other side, close enough that his scent hit me like a physical thing. Pine and winter and something darker that made my omega biology sit up and start taking notes I did not want it taking. You've learned to survive in the shadows of your own home. You've learned to be overlooked, underestimated, forgotten. Those are useful skills in our world, Do-hyun finished. Your world, I echoed, and felt the weight of what that meant settling over me like a blanket. The Kang pack. 400 wolves, Taewon confirmed, his breath warm against my ear. Too close, way too close. Half of them warriors, all of them bound by blood and moon and laws older than this city. They'll test you, Do-hyun added from my other side. I was trapped between them now, drowning in their combined scent. Some will want you to fail. Many will assume you already have. Taiwan's voice dropped lower. Because you're human-born, because you're small, quiet, easily overlooked. But we've found, Do-hyun said, and I felt his fingers ghost against my jaw, tilting my face up to meet his eyes, that the most dangerous creatures are often the ones nobody sees coming. My heart was trying to break through my rib cage. This wasn't happening, couldn't be happening. Alphas didn't choose the broken Omega, the one who'd learned to make himself invisible just to survive family dinners. And yet, I don't understand, I whispered, hating how my voice shook. Why me? They exchanged a look over my head, some silent communication I couldn't read. Then Do-hyun's hand moved from my jaw to cup the back of my neck, warm and possessive, and I stopped breathing entirely. Because, he said, and for the first time I heard something beneath the roughness of his voice, something that sounded almost like loneliness. We don't need another beautiful thing to display in our territory. We need someone who knows what it means to survive when the world expects you to break. Taewon's hand found my wrist, thumb pressing against my pulse point. Someone clever enough to hide in plain sight. Someone who's already learned to fight battles no one else can see, Do-hyun finished. Oh, they knew. Somehow they knew about my telepathy. Before I could process that terrifying realization, Do-hyun turned, addressing the room with absolute authority. Mr. An, we accept your offer of alliance. His hand was still on my neck, claiming me in front of everyone. Your son Jiha will return with us to our territory as our intended mate. The bonding ceremony will take place under the next full moon. The hall erupted, but I barely heard any of it. I was too busy trying to remember how to breathe while two alphas touched me like I was something precious and my entire life rewrote itself in the space of a heartbeat. Absolutely not. My father's voice cut through the noise, sharp and desperate. Alpha Kang, there's been a misunderstanding. He's not suitable. He's never been trained for pack life. He has no proper education in protocol. No, we're aware of what he doesn't have, Taewon interrupted smoothly, finally releasing my wrist, but not stepping back. Still too close, still radiating heat that made my skin prickle. We're more interested in what he does. Do-hyun's hand slid from my neck, and I could breathe again. Barely. The decision is made, Do-hyun said, his tone making it clear the conversation was over. We'll handle the legal contracts tonight. Jiha leaves, with us at dawn. Dawn, as in tomorrow dawn. As in 12 hours from now. My telepathy suddenly came back online, flooding my head with everyone's thoughts at once. My father's panic, and this wasn't the plan. The weak one will ruin everything. Minho's confusion mixed with something that felt like relief. At least it's not me. At least I'm safe. And from the business associates, a tsunami of shock and judgment and barely concealed disgust. The broken Omega. They chose the broken one. What kind of alphas? I pressed my palm against my stomach, trying to calm the sudden twist of nausea. This was too much, too fast, too everything. I need air, I heard myself say, not asking permission, just stating fact. I turned and walked toward the balcony doors before anyone could stop me. My legs felt disconnected from my body, operating on autopilot while my brain tried to catch up with the last 10 minutes of my life. The night air hit my face like a slap. Cold, clean. The city spread out below, Seoul's lights glittering like scattered diamonds, and I gripped the marble railing hard enough to hurt. Okay, Okay, process this. Two alphas I'd never met just claimed me in front of my entire family and half of Seoul's elite pack leadership. They somehow knew about my telepathy, which I'd hidden my whole life. They wanted me specifically, not Minho, not some other proper Omega from a better family. Me, the broken one. You know, I said to the city, when I woke up this morning, get claimed by dual alphas was not on my bingo card. You play bingo? Taewan's voice came from directly behind me. I didn't jump. Barely. It's a metaphor, I said without turning around. I'm expressing surprise at the unprecedented nature of my evening. We noticed. He moved to stand beside me at the railing, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. You handled it well, better than most would have. I disassociated and fled to a balcony. That's not handling it well. That's handling it like someone who's about to throw up on very expensive marble. He laughed, actually laughed. The sound was warm and surprised, like he hadn't expected to find me funny. You're not what we expected either, he admitted. I finally looked at him. The city lights caught the silver in his hair, made his eyes reflect like a cat's. Definitely not entirely human. None of them were. What did you expect? Someone more? He paused, searching for words. Broken. You use that word yourself, but you're not, are you? I thought about that. 23 years of being invisible, of being compared and found wanting, of learning to read every room because survival meant knowing who would hurt you before they did. No, I said slowly. I'm bent. Badly. But not broken. There's a difference. That's what Do-hyun saw. Taewon turned to face me fully. That's what I see now. Someone who learned to survive by adapting instead of fighting? Do you know how rare that is? How valuable? Valuable. The word tasted bitter. Is that what I am? A valuable acquisition for the Kang pack? You're our mate, he said simply. Chosen. That's different. You don't know me. Not yet. His smile was sharp. But we will. You'll come to our territory. Meet the pack. If you survive the introduction period and the bonding trials, you'll become our Luna, our equal, our partner in leading 400 wolves who will absolutely test you in ways your family never did. And if I don't survive? Something dark flickered across his face. Then we were wrong about you, and we're never wrong. The arrogance should have annoyed me. Instead, I found it almost reassuring. At least he was honest. No false promises, no gentle lies. I could run, I pointed out, right now. Jump off this balcony, shift, disappear into the city. I'm good at disappearing. You could. He didn't sound worried. But you won't. Why not? Because for the first time in your life, someone looked at you and chose you. Not your brother. Not someone better or prettier or more perfect. His eyes held mine. You. Exactly as you are. And you're curious enough to see what happens next. Damn him for being right. You're annoyingly perceptive, I muttered. We try. He pushed off the railing. Dawn comes early. I suggest you pack light. Where we're going, none of this, he gestured at the glittering hall behind us, matters. He left me alone with the city and my racing thoughts. I stayed there until my hands stopped shaking, until my telepathy quieted, until I could almost convince myself I was ready for whatever came next. I wasn't. But I'd learned a long time ago that being ready was optional. Surviving was not. If you're hooked on Jiha's journey and want to see what happens when he arrives at Kang territory, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, the pack initiation is going to be wild, and you don't want to miss what happens when Jiha's telepathy meets 400 wolves who can smell a lie. New stories drop regularly, so subscribe and join the pack. Touching, Minho's voice cut through my thoughts like ice water. Very philosophical for someone who just stole my life. I turned to find my brother standing in the balcony doorway, backlit by the chandelier glow. Still perfect, still devastatingly beautiful, and absolutely furious. I didn't steal anything, I said, keeping my voice level. I was literally hiding in a corner. They found me. Don't play innocent. He stepped onto the balcony, and I caught the sharp scent of his anger mixing with expensive cologne. You did something, said something. Use that freaky mind trick of yours to make them choose you, instead of me. My telepathy picked up his thoughts before I could stop it. Years of preparation, years of being groomed for this, and the broken reject gets chosen instead. It's not fair. It's not. I didn't use my telepathy on them, I interrupted. I can't. They're completely blocked. Radio silence, which is honestly terrifying, but that's beside the point. Minho laughed, sharp and bitter. Of course. Of course you'd find a way to make yourself special, even in failure. Poor little Jiha, so overlooked, so invisible, and now two of the most powerful alphas in Seoul want you. It's pathetic. Something hot flared in my chest. 23 years of this. 23 years of being the disappointment, the backup plan, the one who didn't quite measure up. I was so tired of it. You know what's actually pathetic? I pushed off the railing, facing him fully. That you're standing here angry at me instead of relieved. You don't even want them, Minho. You want what they represent. Power, status, another achievement to add to your perfect resume. His jaw tightened. You don't know what I want. I'm literally telepathic. I know exactly what you want. I took a step closer. You're terrified, absolutely terrified of leaving father's territory, of having to prove yourself in a world where your pretty face and Harvard degree don't automatically make you valuable. You should be thanking me for taking this bullet. Thanking you? His voice rose. Do you have any idea what you've done? What this makes our family look like? Father offered me, and they rejected me for the broken one, I finished. Yeah, I was there. It was awkward for everyone. This isn't funny, Jiha. It's a little funny. I tilted my head. Come on. The dramatic irony alone is worth something. Years of you being the golden child, and in one night I become more valuable than you've ever been. That's got to sting. His hand shot out, grabbing my collar. Fast. Too fast. His wolf flashing in his eyes, turning them amber. You think this is a game? His voice had gone low, dangerous. They're going to eat you alive. You're weak, untrained. You have no idea how to survive in a real pack. And when you fail, when you embarrass our family, Father will never forgive you, or me for not being chosen instead. I let my telepathy slip past his anger, deeper into the fear underneath. And I found it, the real terror. If Jiha fails, Father will blame me. Say I wasn't good enough. Say I should have done more. And Mother already looks at me like I'm not. Let go of me, I said quietly. Make me. So I did something I'd never done before. I pushed, not with my hands, with my mind, a sharp mental jab directly into his thoughts, like shoving someone hard in a crowded room. Minho stumbled back, gasping, his hand dropping, from my collar. What the hell was that? He pressed his palm to his temple. That hurt. Good. My heart was racing, but I kept my voice steady. Don't grab me again. I might be the broken one, but I'm not defenseless. We stared at each other, two brothers who'd never really known each other beyond competition and comparison. You're going to die there, he said finally, quieter now, almost like he cared. In their territory. They're going to test you and you're going to fail and you'll finally have everything you wanted, I finished. Father's full attention. No more disappointing younger brother to be compared to. You'll be the only son. The perfect one. Something cracked in his expression. That's not... I don't want you to die, Jiha. The honesty in his voice surprised me. I let my telepathy brush against his thoughts again. Gentler this time. I've been terrible to him. I know I have. But he's still my brother. Still the kid who used to follow me around before Father started the comparisons. Before everything got complicated. I'm not going to die, I said, and tried to believe it. I'm going to adapt, like I always do. And maybe for the first time in my life, I'll be somewhere I was actually chosen, not just tolerated. Minho's hands curled into fists at his sides. Why you? What do they see that everyone else missed? I thought about Taewon's words, about survival and adaptation, about being bent but not broken. I don't know yet, I admitted, but I'm going to find out. He nodded slowly. Then, surprising us both, He stepped forward and pulled me into a brief, awkward hug. "Don't make me regret not warning Father about your telepathy trick," he muttered against my shoulder. "Don't make me regret not reading your mind in front of his business partners," I countered. He pulled back, and something like a real smile flickered across his face. "You really would have, wouldn't you?" Without hesitation, I smiled back. "I'm petty like that." "Jiha," my father's voice boomed from inside. "The Alphas are leaving. They want you to meet their driver." "Right, because this night wasn't surreal enough already." "Good luck," Minho said quietly. "You're going to need it." "I know." I walked back inside, leaving my perfect brother on the balcony with the city lights and whatever thoughts he didn't want me to hear. The reception hall had shifted. The crowd had thinned. Most of the business associates already fled to gossip about the night's scandal. My father stood near the windows with Do-hyun in Taiwan, his expression carefully neutral while he signed papers a lawyer held out. Legal documents, contracts, making it official, making it real. A woman stood off to the side, watching the proceedings with sharp eyes. Mid-30s maybe, dressed in black. Tactical pants and a leather jacket that screamed security detail. Her dark hair was pulled into a severe bun, and when her gaze landed on me, I felt my telepathy immediately try to read her. Nothing. Complete silence. Just like the Alphas. What the hell? How many people in this pack are immune to telepathy? Jiha, Do-hyun's voice pulled my attention. He'd finished signing whatever contracts bound me to them, his expression unreadable. "This is Yun-hee. She's head of our security detail and will be accompanying us back to the territory." Yun-hee's lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. "The Omega who doesn't know when to stay visible." Her voice was smoke and gravel. "Interesting choice, Alphas." "It wasn't a choice," Taewon said mildly. "It was a certainty." She made a non-committal sound and turned those sharp eyes back to me. "Can you fight?" "No." "Run?" "Moderately well." "Shift?" "Yes, but I'm not winning any awards for it." "Wonderful." She looked at Do-hyun. "We're taking a liability into hostile territory. Again. This is becoming a pattern." "Your concern is noted," Do-hyun said dryly, "and dismissed." I raised my hand slightly. "Sorry, quick question. Hostile territory? I thought we were going to your territory." "Same thing," Yun-hee said. "Until you prove yourself, you're an outsider. And the pack doesn't like outsiders, especially human-born Omegas who can't fight." Her eyes narrowed. "You got any other skills we should know about, besides hiding and looking pathetic?" My telepathy flared with irritation. I pushed it toward her, testing. Her head tilted. "Did you just try to read my mind?" "Oh. Oh no." "Maybe?" I tried to look innocent. "How would I even do that?" "Telepathy," she said flatly. "You're a telepath. That's why they chose you. Makes sense now." I glanced at Do-hyun and Taewon. "Does everyone in your pack just casually know about rare abilities?" "No," Taewon said, "but Yun-hee is very good at her job, which includes identifying potential threats." "I'm not a threat." "Not yet," Yun-hee agreed. "But you will be, if you survive long enough." She looked at the Alphas. "The car's ready. We should leave before the media catches wind of this. Last thing we need is cameras." "Already?" My father's voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat, trying to recover. "They're leaving now?" "Dawn is in 6 hours," Do-hyun said. "Jiha needs to pack. We'll return for him then." Relief flooded through me. 6 hours. I had 6 hours to process this, pack, maybe have a small breakdown in private. "Actually," Taewon said, and that relief evaporated, "we'd prefer if Jiha came with us now. Our residence here in Seoul is more secure than your estate, given the circumstances." "What circumstances?" I asked. Nobody answered. My telepathy suddenly screamed warning. That instinct that had kept me alive in my father's house. The one that knew when danger was close, even if I couldn't see it. I turned, scanning the room. Most of the remaining guests were leaving, flowing toward the exits in small clusters. Business partners, father's associates, nobody suspicious. Except there. Near the service entrance I'd been hiding beside earlier. A figure in dark clothes leaning against the wall like he belonged there. watching us with eyes that gleamed too bright in the chandelier light. Something about him felt wrong, off, like looking at a photograph where one detail doesn't match the rest. When our eyes met, he smiled. Slow, sharp, predatory. My telepathy reached toward him automatically and hit something cold. Not silence like the alphas, not emptiness like Yun-hee, but something that felt like ice water and old rage and hunger that had nothing to do with food. The temperature around me dropped. My breath misted. Jiha, Taewon's hand was suddenly on my shoulder. What's wrong? I tried to speak. Couldn't. The figure pushed off the wall, still smiling, and walked toward the exit with everyone else. Normal, casual, like he hadn't just made my instincts scream danger in a language older than words. There, I managed to point. That man, dark clothes, by the service entrance. Did you see him? Yun-hee moved fast. She was across the room in seconds, but the figure had already melted into the crowd flowing toward the exits. Describe him, Do-hyun commanded, his voice gone hard. Tall, maybe 6 feet. Dark hair, dark clothes. Nothing special except... I struggled to explain. Except when he looked at me, it felt like he was measuring me for a coffin. Taewon and Do-hyun exchanged a look. The kind of look that meant they knew exactly what I was talking about and weren't happy about it. We're leaving, Do-hyun said. Now. Yun-hee? She was already back, her hand resting on something under her jacket. Weapon, probably. Clear path to the car. But Alpha, if he was here... I know. Do-hyun's hand moved to the small of my back, firm and possessive, which is why Jiha comes with us tonight. No arguments. My father started to protest, but Taewon cut him off with a look that could freeze steel. Your son just caught the attention of something dangerous, Taewon said quietly. Would you prefer we leave him here to find out what? The answer was obvious from my father's expression. He didn't want me here, didn't want the risk of whatever I'd just seen targeting his house, his business, his precious reputation. Take him, father said, not even looking at me. Just handle it quietly. Handle it like I was a problem, a mess to clean up. Same as always. Wait. I pulled away from Do-hyun's hand, my voice sharper than intended. I don't have anything with me. No clothes, no... We'll provide everything, Taewon said. Already moving toward the exit, Yun-hee flanking us like a shadow. Your safety is more important than luggage. My safety from what exactly? I planted my feet, not moving. Nobody's explained what that was, who that was, what I just saw. Do-hyun stopped, turning to face me fully. The hall had almost cleared now, just a few stragglers and staff cleaning up. His eyes held something dark, worried. We'll explain in the car, he said. But right now, every second you stand here arguing is a second something dangerous knows exactly where you are. Something, I repeated, not someone. Car. Now. His voice dropped into command, and my omega biology responded before my brain could protest. That instinct to obey an alpha's direct order when danger was close. I hated it, but I also wasn't stupid enough to ignore the fear in Yun-hee's eyes or the way both alphas had. Gone tense, scanning the room like predators expecting ambush. Fine, I started walking. But someone better start explaining soon, or I'm jumping out at the first red light. The car doesn't stop at red lights, Yun-hee muttered. Of course it doesn't. We moved through the lobby fast, Yun-hee in front, me sandwiched between the two alphas. Their combined scent wrapped around me, pine and winter, and something wild that made my hindbrain recognize safety, even as my forebrain screamed about stranger danger. The car was black, expensive, windows tinted dark enough to be illegal. Yun-hee opened the back door and gestured sharply. In, middle seat, don't touch the windows. I slid in, and immediately both alphas flanked me. Do-hyun on my left, Taewon on my right, close enough that our thighs pressed together, close enough that I could feel their body heat through my clothes. This is fine, totally normal. Just trapped between two predators in a car going to an unknown location, living my best life. Yun-hee took the front passenger seat, and the driver pulled out before I'd even finished buckling. We drove in silence for maybe 30 seconds. Okay, I said. Explanation time. What did I see? A hunter, Do said quietly. Possibly. Definitely, Taewon corrected. Jiha described the cold, the hunger. That's not a guess. What's a hunter? I looked between them. And why do you both sound like you've seen one before? Yoonhee twisted in her seat to look at me. Hunters are what happens when wolves go rogue. Break pack law, kill humans. The madness takes over and they become something else. Something that hunts for sport instead of survival. They're supposed to be myth, Doyun added. Horror stories packs tell young wolves to keep them in line. But about 8 months ago, we started getting reports. Wolves going missing near the borders, bodies found drained, torn apart in us ways that suggested pleasure, not hunger. My stomach turned. And you think this hunter thing is in Seoul? At my father's party? We think, Taewon said carefully, that someone sent it to watch you, to see what the Kang pack had chosen, and to send a message. What message? That you're vulnerable. That claiming you makes us vulnerable. His hand found mine in the dark, fingers threading through mine. Warm, steady. That whoever sent it doesn't approve of our choice. I stared at our joined hands. This was too much. Too fast. 12 hours ago, my biggest problem was avoiding Minho at family dinner. Now I was apparently being stalked by rogue wolf monsters. So what? I pulled my hand away, needing space. You're just going to keep me locked up? Hidden? That's a great start to this whole mate thing. No, Do-Yun's voice was firm. We're going to train you, teach you to fight, to defend yourself, to use that telepathy of yours as a weapon instead of just a parlor trick. It's not a parlor trick. Prove it. He turned to face me fully. Right now, what am I thinking? I reached out with my telepathy, still annoyed, and hit that same wall of heat and silence. I can't read you, either of you, or Yoonhee, which is incredibly frustrating, by the way. Good, Yoonhee said from the front. Means our mental shields work. But that's not the only use for telepathy. You pushed your brother's mind earlier. We felt it. I froze. You were listening? We're always listening when our mate is potentially in danger. Taewon's smile was sharp. You have power, Jiha. Real power. You just need to learn how to use it properly. How to weaponize it. I don't want to weaponize it. I just want to survive. Same thing in our world, Do-Hyun said. And you will survive. We'll make sure of it. The certainty in his voice should have been comforting. Instead, it made me realize just how much danger I was actually in. The car slowed, turning into an underground parking garage. Sleek, modern. The kind of place that cost more per month than most people's mortgages. Where are we? I asked. Our sole residence, Taewon said. Top 3 floors. Fully secured. Nothing gets in or out without us knowing. Sounds like a prison. Sounds like safety, Yoonhee corrected. You'll understand the difference soon enough. The car stopped. Yoonhee was out first, scanning the empty garage like threats might materialize from concrete pillars. Clear, she said. Let's move. I stepped out into fluorescent lighting and climate-controlled air and felt the weight of everything settle on my shoulders. My old life was officially over. No going back. No pretending this was temporary. I was theirs now, whether I wanted to be or not. Things are getting intense. If you're dying to know what happens when Jiha meets the full Kang pack and learns to weaponize his telepathy, and trust me, it gets wild. Smash that subscribe button. We've got alpha drama, pack politics, a mysterious hunter, and Jiha's sass levels are only going up from here. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Stop spiraling, Taewon said, his hand pressing gently against my lower back as he guided me toward a private elevator. I can practically hear your anxiety from here. That's not how telepathy works. No, but it's how having functioning eyes works. You look like you're about to bolt. I'm considering it, I admitted. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Gold interior, mirror walls. The kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. This is a lot to process. Hunters, pack politics, the fact that I apparently need weapons training now. You'll adapt, Do-Hyun said, stepping in beside me. It's what you do best. The elevator rose, smoothly. Floor numbers ticked past. 10, 15, 20. How high does this thing go? I asked. Penthouse, Yunhee answered. Floors 25 through 27. Secured access only. Of course, because why have one floor when you could have three? The doors opened directly into a living space that made my father's estate look modest. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's skyline. Modern furniture in blacks and grays. Art that was probably worth more than my education. Everything sharp and clean and utterly impersonal. Home sweet home, I muttered. It's a base, Taewon corrected. Not a home. Our actual territory is 2 hours north. We'll take you there tomorrow after you've rested. Right. Rest. Because that's definitely happening tonight. I walked to the windows, staring out at the city lights. Somewhere down there, my father was probably already spinning the story, probably already explaining to his business partners how this was, all part of the plan. My telepathy stirred, restless. Usually by now I'd have retreated to my room, shut the door, let the silence settle. But here in this glass tower with 3 people I couldn't read, the silence felt different, heavier. Why can't I read you? I turned to face them. Any of you. Is it a pack thing? An alpha thing? Mental shields, Do-Yun said. He'd removed his suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves, looking more human now, less corporate alpha. Every wolf in our pack learns them young. Telepaths are rare, but not unheard of. We teach defense against mental intrusion as basic training. So you've met others like me. 2, Yunhee said. She'd positioned herself near the elevator, still on guard. 1 died in a challenge fight. The other went rogue 5 years ago. Cheerful. Facts, she corrected. Telepaths are powerful. That makes them targets, or threats, depending on perspective. And which am I? I looked at Do-Yun. Target or threat? Both, he said simply. Which is why you're here. Why we chose you specifically. Something in his tone made my instincts prickle. You didn't just choose me because I'm clever or adaptable. There's something else. Something you haven't told me yet. Taewon and Do-Yun exchanged another one of those silent communication looks. Tell him, Yunhee said. He deserves to know before tomorrow. Know what? I crossed my arms. And why does everyone keep being cryptic? I've had enough mysteries for one night. Do-Yun moved to the windows, standing beside me, close enough that I could feel his heat. 8 months ago, our previous second was killed, murdered during what should have been a routine border patrol. No scent trail, no evidence, just his body left as a message. My stomach dropped. The hunter. We think so, but we can't prove it, can't track it, can't find any trace of who or what killed him. His reflection in the glass looked haunted. 3 weeks later, another pack member went missing. Then another. All near the borders. All without trace. Someone's targeting your pack specifically. Yes, and we believe they're using a telepath to hide their tracks, to mask scents, manipulate memories, create false trails. Taewon had moved closer too, flanking my other side. We've tried everything. Trackers, magic users, technology. Nothing works. Understanding crashed over me like cold water. You need me to find them. That's why you chose me. Not because you wanted a mate, because you need a weapon. No. Do-Yun turned to face me fully. We need both. A telepath who can help us hunt this thing? Yes. But also someone strong enough to survive what comes after. Someone who's already learned to fight battles nobody else can see. You should have led with that, I said. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Before the claiming, before the contracts, before you made this permanent. Would you have believed us, Taewon asked, if we'd walked into your father's hall and said we need your broken son because he's the only one who can help us catch a killer? No, I admitted. I'd have thought it was some elaborate prank or a trap. Exactly. He reached out, fingers brushing my jaw. Gentle, careful. So we showed you instead. We chose you because you're valuable, because you're exactly what we need, both for the hunt and for the pack. I pulled away from his touch, needing space, needing to think. This is insane. All of this. I'm not a hunter. I'm not a warrior. I'm just some Omega who learned to read minds because I was too weak to do anything else. You survived 23 years in a house that tried to make you invisible, Do-hyun said. You developed a power that should have driven you mad by adolescence and learned to control it. You stood in front of two alphas and didn't break. You pushed your brother's mind hard enough to hurt him. You sensed the hunter when none of us could. His pale eyes held mine. You're stronger than you know, Jiha, and we're going to prove it. Tomorrow, Yunhee added from her post by the elevator, when we take you to the territory, when you meet the pack, when the real training begins. I looked between the three of them, at their certainty, their confidence, their absolute faith that I was capable of something I'd never imagined. Part of me wanted to run, to bolt back to my father's house and hide in my room and pretend this night had never happened. But a larger part, the part that had survived by being clever instead of strong, whispered something different. Maybe they're right. Maybe you are stronger than you know. Maybe it's time to find out. Okay, I said. The word came out steadier than I felt. Let's say I agree to this. To being your telepath hunter or whatever. What happens if I can't do it? If I'm not strong enough? Then we find another way, Do-hyun said simply. But we don't think that'll happen. Your confidence is either inspiring or delusional. I haven't decided which yet. Taewon laughed, warm and genuine. There's that fire. Good. You'll need it tomorrow when the pack tries to tear you apart verbally. Looking forward to it already. I rubbed my temples. The telepathy headache was starting. That dull throb behind my eyes that happened when I pushed too hard. Is there anything to drink here that isn't expensive whiskey or alpha posturing? Kitchen's through there, Yunhee pointed. Help yourself. I'm doing perimeter check. She disappeared toward what I assumed were the other floors, moving like a shadow. I walked toward the kitchen, needing distance from the alphas and their combined scent that made my biology. One things my brain wasn't ready for. The kitchen was all marble and stainless steel. I found a glass, filled it with water from a filter that probably cost more than my monthly allowance used to. Your hands are shaking, Taewon observed from the doorway. Telepathy hangover, I said, drinking half the glass in one go. Happens when I push too hard or read too many minds at once. Your party was loud. Show me. I looked at him. Show you what? How it works, your telepathy, the real extent of it. He moved closer, leaning against the counter. You pushed your brother. You sensed the hunter. What else can you do? I don't know. I've spent most of my life trying not to use it. I set the glass down. Reading minds uninvited tends to make people uncomfortable. Turns out nobody likes having their thoughts invaded. Try me, he said. I'm curious what happens when you push against a mental shield. It'll hurt. I've been hurt before. The challenge in his voice sparked something in me. That part that was tired of being careful, of holding back, of pretending to be weaker than I was. Your funeral, I muttered. I reached out with my telepathy, but instead of the gentle brush I usually used, I pushed. Hard, focused, like trying to break through a wall with my bare hands. His shield held, solid, immovable. So I pushed harder. The world tilted. My vision blurred. I felt the edge of his shield, the seams where his control wavered, and I wedged my consciousness into that gap like a crowbar. For just a second I was inside. Stronger than he looks. Reminds me of... No, don't think about that. Need to keep him safe. Do-hyun was right to choose him. Those eyes focus. Then his shield slammed back into place and I stumbled, gasping. Taewon caught me before I hit the floor, his hands on my waist, steadying me, and I could feel his heart racing against my chest. That, he said, voice rough, was incredibly stupid and impressive. Thanks, I think. My head was spinning. Your shield is really strong. It has to be. I'm second of the pack. I can't afford weakness. His hands were still on my waist, not letting go. But you found the gap. In less than 30 seconds, you found the weak point in shields I've been building for 20 years. Is that good or terrifying? Both. He smiled, and this close I could see the silver wasn't just in his hair. There were flecks of it in his dark eyes too, like stars. You're going to be dangerous once we train you properly. If I don't die first, We won't let that happen. His thumb traced small circles against my hip, and I realized we were still pressed together, that I could feel every line of his body against mine, that my biology was definitely taking notes about how good he smelled up close. I stepped back. Personal space. It's a thing. Not in our pack. But he let me go, amusement flickering across his face. You'll need to get used to touch. Wolves are tactile, especially with mates. I'm not good with touch. We'll teach you. Doyun's voice came from behind me, and I jumped. How did someone that large move so quietly? But not tonight. Tonight you rest, recover. Tomorrow is going to be difficult enough without you exhausted. I'm fine. You're swaying on your feet, Doyun corrected. Telepathy drain. I've seen it before. Come on. He placed a hand on my shoulder, guiding me toward a hallway. Your room is this way. My room? I blinked. Separate room? I thought mates usually share quarters immediately after claiming, Taewon finished, following us. But you're human-born, not used to pack dynamics. We're not going to force intimacy before you're ready. Oh. I didn't know why that disappointed me slightly. That's considerate. We're not monsters, Jiha. Doyun opened a door to a bedroom that was bigger than my entire old room. King bed, more floor-to-ceiling windows, bathroom that looked like a spa. Despite what you might have heard about alphas, I haven't heard anything about you specifically, I admitted. I don't exactly run in pack circles. Good. Something dark flickered in his eyes. Most of what you'd hear would be reputation management anyway. The truth is usually messier. He turned to leave, but I caught his wrist. Wait, the second who died. Were you close? His jaw tightened. He was my best friend, my brother in everything but blood. He looked at where my hand touched his skin. Finding his killer isn't just strategy, it's personal. Then I'll help you, I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. However I can, not because you chose me or claimed me, but because nobody deserves to die like that. Something shifted in his expression, softened. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'll probably screw this up spectacularly. Probably, he agreed, but he was almost smiling. Get some sleep, Jiha. Tomorrow you meet 400 wolves who are going to judge every breath you take. Can't wait. They left, closing the door softly behind them. I stood in the too large room with the too expensive furniture, watching soul glitter below. Somewhere out there, a hunter was watching back, and tomorrow I'd start learning how to hunt it. I should have slept, should have collapsed into that obscenely comfortable bed and let exhaustion claim me. Instead, I stood at the window, forehead pressed against the cool glass, watching the city breathe below. My telepathy was quiet now, no voices bleeding through walls, no thoughts invading mine, just blessed silence and the distant hum of traffic 27 floors down. The door opened behind me without knocking. Can't sleep either? Doyun's voice was softer than before, more human. Too much adrenaline, too many revelations. Pick your poison. I didn't turn around. Shouldn't you be resting? Alpha duties and all that? Alpha duties include making sure our Omega isn't planning escape routes. He moved to stand beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. Are you planning escape routes? Always. I smiled slightly. Survival instinct. But no, I'm not running. Not tonight anyway. What changed your mind? In the kitchen. You were angry about being chosen for strategic reasons. Then suddenly you weren't. I thought about that, about the moment his expression had shifted when he'd mentioned his best friend, the grief underneath the alpha mask. You made it personal, I said, not about pack politics or alliances or what I could do for you strategically. You made it about someone you lost, someone you loved. That I understand. Do you? He turned to look at me, and in the reflected city lights, his dark eyes looked almost vulnerable. Understand loss? My mother. The words came easier than expected. She died when I was 12. Sickness that no amount of money could cure. My father buried his grief in business. Minho buried his in perfection. I buried mine in becoming invisible. I met his gaze. So yeah, I understand wanting to find answers. wanting justice for someone who deserved better. He was quiet for a long moment. Then carefully, like I might bolt, he reached up and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "You're not what I expected when we decided to attend your father's gathering," he said softly. "I thought we'd find someone useful, strategic, a tool we could train and deploy." "Wow, romance isn't dead after all." His lips quirked. "But then you were standing there in that corner, trying so hard to disappear, and I felt it. This pull, like recognition." His fingers traced down my jaw. Taewon felt it too. We looked at each other and just knew. You weren't a tool. You were ours, meant to be ours. My breath caught. "Mates? You mean actual fated mates? That's real? Rare, but real." His thumb brushed my lower lip, and I felt the touch everywhere. The strategic reasoning came after. Justification for what we'd already decided in the first 30 seconds of seeing you. "So you lied about only wanting me for the telepathy." "No, we need that too. Desperately." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my temple. "But we would have chosen you regardless. Would have found another way to hunt the killer. Because the thought of leaving you in that house, invisible and overlooked for one more day, was unbearable." Something cracked open in my chest. Some wall I'd been building since I was 12 years old and learned that love meant loss, meant pain. "That's really unfair," as I whispered, saying things like that when I'm trying to keep emotional distance. "Good." His smile was soft, genuine. "I don't want distance. Neither does Taewon. We want you close, safe, ours." The door opened again. Taewon leaned against the frame, arms crossed, silver hair catching the light. "Are we doing feelings without me? Rude." "Your timing is terrible," Doyun said, but there was fondness in his voice. "My timing is perfect." Taewon pushed off the frame and crossed to us. "Jiha needs to hear this from both of us, needs to understand what he's agreeing to." "I'm agreeing to hunt a killer and probably die trying," I said. "What else is there?" "Everything." Taewon's hand found my other cheek, so now I was framed between them, surrounded by their warmth and scent and the weight of their absolute attention. "You're agreeing to be Luna, to lead beside us, to be claimed not just in name but in truth. Bond marks, ceremony, the full weight of pack law recognizing you as ours. That's a lot." "It is," Doyun agreed, "which is why we're asking now. Before tomorrow, before the pack sees you and makes judgments, before the politics and trials and tests begin." His dark eyes held mine. "Do you want this? Want us? Or are we just the lesser evil compared to your father's house?" I looked between them, at the vulnerability in Do-hyun's expression, the hope in Taewon's eyes, the way they were both touching me like I was precious, like I mattered. 23 years I'd been invisible, overlooked. The broken one, the backup plan, the disappointment. And here were two alphas, powerful enough to have anyone, asking if I wanted them. "I'm going to be terrible at this," I said. "At being Luna, at pack politics, at not accidentally reading everyone's minds during important meetings." "Probably," Taewon agreed. "And I'm going to panic and doubt myself, and probably try to run at least twice before the bonding ceremony." "We'll catch you," Do-hyun promised. "And I have no idea how to hunt a killer, or use my telepathy as a weapon, or survive in a world full of predators who think I'm weak." "We'll teach you," they said together. I took a breath, let myself feel the truth settling into my bones. "Then yes," the words came out stronger than I expected. "I want this, want you, both of you, even though it's insane and dangerous and I'll probably screw it up." Tywin's smile was brilliant. "That's all we needed to hear." "Well," I said, feeling bold, "that and maybe you could explain the actual bonding process, because I have some questions about logistics." Do-hyun kissed me, not gentle, not careful, but claiming and sure and absolutely devastating. His hand cupped the back of my neck, angling my head exactly where he wanted it. And I stopped thinking entirely. When he finally pulled back, I was breathing hard and clinging to his shirt. "Questions later," he murmured against my lips. "Right now, just feel." Taewon turned my face toward him, his kiss different, slower, deeper, like he was learning me, memorizing me. When they both pulled back, I was definitely swaying. Okay, I managed. Feeling is, yeah, that's good. They laughed and the sound was warm. Right, like coming home to a place I'd never been. Tomorrow, Taewon said, the pack meets their new Luna. Tomorrow, Do-Yun added, we start training you. And eventually, I said, finding my voice again, we hunt that hunter. Eventually, they agreed. I looked out at Seoul one last time, at the life I was leaving behind, the invisibility, the shadows, the careful survival in a house that never wanted me. Then I turned my back on it. All right, I said, let's do this. Let's make me dangerous. Their answering smiles promised everything. Tomorrow would be hard. The pack would test me. The hunter would hunt us. And I'd probably fail spectacularly at least once. But tonight, standing between two alphas who'd chosen me not despite my brokenness, but because of it, I felt something I'd never felt before. Powerful, wanted, whole. The invisible Omega had finally been seen, and God's help anyone who tried to make me disappear again. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. If that ending wrecked you, hit subscribe.